right, well, thank you, worship team. If you're standing, we love that you're standing, but go ahead and take a seat. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I came across, I didn't post it, actually another local pastor in the area posted this on Facebook about a week ago. I thought this was a really good representation of what Father's Day in reality is for some of us dads in America. Let's put this meme up. Some of you took a while to kind of put that one together there. Anyways, I just thought I would share that. That gave me a chuckle when I looked at it on Facebook last week. So, hey, there, as Rachel said, maple bacon donuts outside. I cheated. I'm so sorry, you guys, but I am a dad. I already had one. There is literally a physical strip of bacon on the donut. So I'm just saying. When we say bacon donuts, we mean bacon donuts and local coffee. We're loving it. So, hey, we're going to get down to business. 2 Sundays ago, Pastor Dan, he kicked off our new summer sermon series. And then last Sunday, we had it off because of the celebration service. So we're back in round 2 this morning. Here's what we're doing. We are going through Matthew 5 through 7 for the rest of the summer. Matthew 5 through 7. Is literally, people say this, I think they're right. Jesus preached a sermon, and it's literally considered like the greatest sermon ever preached in history. And so that is what Matthew 5 through 7 is. Typically, it's called the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus gave it literally on a hill. And so we were just extra clever here, and we called it Summer on the Mount. We tried really hard here, but this is Jesus' most famous sermon, if we can say that. And what he's doing is this. In the Old Testament, in first century Judaism, there was a guy named Moses that you've probably heard about. And Moses was really well known. He was the most famous prophet in the first century before Jesus. And Moses received God's law on Mount Sinai thousands of years before Jesus. And he received it on a mountain, Mount Sinai. What Jesus is doing, and you're going to see this the whole summer, Jesus, when he now is on a mountain and he's preaching, he's saying this: one greater than Moses is here. Because now God himself is on this mountain and giving the deeper and the fulfillment of the law that Moses gave thousands and thousands of years ago. So Jesus is unveiling, he's revealing the ultimate purpose of God's law, the blueprint for humanity, if you will. So we're digging in. If you need a Bible, we got the free orange ones underneath the chairs in front of you or your chair. We'll be on page 659. Page 659 in those Bibles. Matthew chapter 5, verse 21 through 26. I thought Rachel said real quick when, I'm sorry if this is too much information, but I'm just raw. So this morning, I thought I didn't know about the water heater thing. So garage floors seeping out, and now so is our bank account. But my son wishes me a happy Father's Day by waking me up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're potty training him. He's doing really well. If you follow me on Instagram, we literally brought his toilet to Angel Stadium in the parking lot, and he went pee in the toilet in the parking lot of Angel Stadium. That's my boy right there. When he goes number 2, I'll take him to Dodger Stadium. You know what I mean? Come on now. No, here's what I was going to say, though. So this morning, he said, Daddy, I got to go potty. So I take him downstairs. He does his thing. It's like 5:30 in the morning. I'm still half asleep. I wear contacts. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see. And I go to pick him up, and I got his bare bottom right here in my arm, and it feels liquidy. And I look at it, and he had diarrhea, and there's diarrhea on my arm. So happy Father's Day to myself. All right. Are we ready to have a good time? All right, let's do it. Let's do what matters most. Matthew 5:21, here we go. You have heard it said to the people long ago, you shall not murder, And anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, let me teach you a bad word in Aramaic this morning. Raka literally means like blockhead. In our colloquial English, it would mean stupid or idiot. So don't call me Raka. If you say Raka, you're answerable to the court. And anyone who says, you fool, in the Greek, that literally means moron, you moron, will be in the danger of the fire of hell. That escalated very quickly. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who's taking you to the court, and do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. Friday, May 21st, literally about a month ago, many of us heard about, just horrific, heartbreaking news. There was a road rage shooting on the 55 freeway in Orange County, where a 6-year-old named Aiden was shot and killed on his way to kindergarten. And it's just devastating. Rattled the hearts of the whole nation. I saw on the front page of CNN, much less for us. This is in our backyard, right? And if you don't know the story, at least from what I understand of it, what happened is Aiden's mom is driving the car, and another car cut her off, and she gave some type of gesture back to that person. Don't know what it was, doesn't really matter. And then that person, in response to the gesture, then ended up shooting the car, and the bullet struck 6-year-old Aiden, and he died. Here's a picture of the scene. Don't worry, it's not graphic. But that's right there on the 55 freeway. And there's so many things I could say about that. I think one of the reasons why this one rattled so much is that, just me personally, I have young kids who sit in a car seat, just like Aiden was. And I've driven with my kids in their car seat on that exact part of the 55 freeway. And I think one of the most jarring things of this tragedy is that it could have happened to any one of us. Orange County DA Todd Spitzer said this at a news briefing. It could have happened to any of us. We all drive the freeways of Southern California. We've all gotten upset at other motorists. Other motorists have gotten upset at us. I've thrown some gestures about myself, but it's never come to a situation of violence, and certainly not in my realm or your realm, to the loss of life. This story is so sobering because, like I said, it could be any one of us, but I think here's actually maybe the more sobering thing. If we're honest, it could have been us on either side of the story. Here's what I mean. I think most of us in here, if we drive, you've probably been cut off before. And you've probably responded negatively in some fashion, right? Don't need to take a poll if you gave the finger or you gave like the death look of stare, right? You raced up because you want to get next to them and let them know that they know, whatever, that they cut you off, right? We all do very impulsive things with road rage. So we very well could have been Aiden's mom who responded like that. It's a very normal human response. And on the other side, I would also venture to say that many of us have probably cut someone off who then has responded to us and our bad driving And then you get mad when they get mad and they point out your bad driving, and then you want to do something back. I mean, the reality is that all of us here, I think if we drive, have participated in some type of road rage. Now, I get most of us probably don't have a gun in your car and you're going to shoot. I get that, right? But what I'm getting at is the seeds of what caused this in just seconds. Could have been any of us. That's not an outlandish statement to make. If you're a bad driver, just don't do it if you have Bible verses on your car or a bridge bumper sticker. Those are the worst bad drivers. When we read Jesus' words here in Matthew 5, isn't the reaction, come on, Jesus? Aren't you exaggerating a little bit? You know, one of the 10 Commandments, do not murder. And then Jesus is like, well, let me take that further. If you're angry with someone, you'll be held to the same judgment. Jesus, sorry, you've taken that one a little too far. Like, how is anger the same thing as someone who's intentionally murdered another human being? Which back in the first century Jewish world, they would have been killed and returned the death penalty. And Jesus isn't done. He continues on. He takes it a step further. He says, again, anyone who calls a brother or sister stupid is answerable to the court, and anyone who calls someone a moron will be in danger of the fire of hell. So now it's more than just anger. He's saying if you call someone a name, you're going to experience hell. Now, is there some rhetorical flair here by Jesus? Sure, absolutely. And a couple of disclaimers. I don't think Jesus is talking just about anger in general, meaning this. Jesus himself showcased for us righteous anger. So anger in of itself isn't bad. Not all types of anger are bad. There is such a thing as righteous anger. When there is an issue of injustice, we should be angry. Jesus models that for us. And even in my reading of this, I don't think this passage gets into the discussion of, is capital punishment okay or not? Is killing and murder in the context of war, is that okay or not? I think those are special situations that I don't think this passage is addressing. So it'd be really easy to get caught up in those unique circumstances and then miss Jesus' general point here. I don't want us to get lost in that. Because I actually don't think Jesus is exaggerating all that much. And that's the point. Jesus is on to something. He's getting to the heart of the matter, the real issue. And the real issue is this. Anger usually starts off with the little things. Anger usually starts off with the little things. An argument, bad customer service, road rage, a miscooked meal, having your son have diarrhea on your arm in the morning. Here's one, going to the DMV. That's not a little thing. What Jesus is talking about here is kind of that deep-seated, lurking, constant anger, like the type of anger that then leaks out as gossip, as slander, as unkind words, calling someone a moron or stupid, mean-spirited emails, honestly, just an overall critical, cynical spirit. And his point, I think, is this. If that's not checked, if those little things that are boiling up in you that are causing anger, if they're not held back, if they're not released in a healthy way, it will grow and it'll begin to actually control you. And literally, at times, it can lead to some shape or form of death. Literally, what we see in the story of Aiden on the 55 freeway. a little thing being cut off, literally in that instance led to death. Jesus, as he always does so well, is just going right to the human heart. And he's actually putting everyone on the same level playing field. Because it's not just that murderers and killers, people in prison, or that you see on Dateline or whatever, those are the bad people and they're over here. And then all of us good church people we're not actually going to murder someone. We're good people. No. He's saying that actually we all got some road rage, and if we're not careful, it could turn into a death of some sorts. Anger unchecked leads to experiencing hell. And it could be experiencing hell on earth. That is what Jesus says. There's no way around it. By the way, that's our vision statement, is we want to see heaven come to earth. The reality is when sin has its way, we experience hell on earth. To help you kind of put the pieces together in this, Tim Keller is a retired pastor in New York City. He puts it this way. I think this is really, really helpful. Jesus is saying murder is a tree. And trees grow from acorns, at least oak trees do. What is the acorn? What's the seed of the tree? What does murder start with? Superiority, arrogance, disdain, hatred. Treating a person not as a person, but as a thing. Looking down, using people. And Jesus says the only difference between a murderer and you is unless you welcome every human being that comes into your life, every human being who's presented to you, unless you treat that person as infinitely valuable and of great worth. If you just disdain certain people, ignore certain people, you don't even care about certain people, he says that's a seed. And check this out. The only difference between you and a murderer is the murderous seed has been watered and fertilized. So the sixth commandment here that Jesus quotes is really getting after someone who cherishes people, cherishes every person, even the persons the world considers unimportant, of no consequence. You treat as if they're kings and queens. That's the kind of heart Jesus says the law of God is trying to get after. So if anger can lead to something like judgment or murder, and it constricts us, and it controls us, and it brings hell to earth, the question becomes, what's the antidote? What's the remedy? What's the solution? What if Jesus offers us a way forward? Right? Like a way to counteract that anger that just builds and builds in you, that you find bubbling up. A way to prevent our own seeds of resentment from being fertilized into murder. Jesus gives his listeners two really radical but really practical illustrations of hard, costly, but life-changing blueprint to be like a full, genuine, gloriously human being. And here they are. They're kind of the same thing. Be reconciled, make friends. Verse 23. Therefore, if you're offering your gift at the altar, and you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. We don't understand the flavor of what Jesus is saying here. This is actually a comic scene that he's painting. The reality is this. Jesus and his disciples, they're in Galilee. Galilee is about 80 miles from Jerusalem. So what Jesus is saying, it'd be like this for us. Hey, if you're in Chino and you're walking to Malibu, I looked at this on a maps to get the mileage right. Or even maybe southern San Diego. If you're going to Malibu or San Diego, and you go there and you're walking, by the way, you're not taking a car, you're walking. And you get there, and then you find out or you realize someone's got an issue with you. Not even you with them. It could just be them with you. You walk all the way back to Chino. 80 miles takes you a week. You give up your reserved seat in the worship center in Malibu or San Diego, and you come back to Chino to get that relationship right. And then you head all the way back to Malibu or San Diego, which is another 80 miles, and you go back to enjoying the worship service. That literally is what Jesus is saying here. It's crazy, it's comical, but that's the point. God cares more about restoration than he does worship. Why? Because if you are controlled by anger, you can't live a life of worship. You cannot worship God if your life is constricted with anger. That's what he's saying. You can't worship God if you're just melting with anger. It doesn't work that way. And then he gives another example, and this one's actually even more serious or kind of a big deal. And the Gentiles would have understood this one. He says, imagine you're in a lawsuit, and it's probably over some type of financial reason. And you're walking with that person to court. He says, figure it out on your walk. Don't even get to the courtroom. Don't allow the issue to get there. Figure it out. Make friends with the person suing you. Because if you go to court, you're going to end up paying legal fees, attorney fees. The judge may find you guilty. You're going to be thrown off into prison. And the Greek word that he uses there, that you pay every single cent, it's like less than a cent in today's currency, meaning they're just going to penny pinch you and take everything you have. Just settle it now. This is the urgency that Jesus is working with. Jesus knows the danger of anger, and he says, urgently deal with it, even if it means interrupting a church service or not going to court. Some of us are weighed down by anger, and it's controlling you. Now, this all sounds great until it becomes a personal demand in your marriage with your spouse because they leave the toilet seat up. I don't ever do that. Your neighbor who doesn't turn down their music at 10 p.m., when you get cut off on the freeway, when you're in the long line at Costco. Don't you hate that you're in a long line at Costco and the person, you buying like two things and they got like two carts? Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Were you awake? Okay. Here's one. You ever go buy a shirt at the clothing store and then you get back home and you go to put it on because you're excited, new clothes, here we go, and they left the little security tag thing on it and you have to drive all the way back? Okay. I get angry at that. I don't know about you guys. Now, in those situations, okay, yeah, this is great, Mark, but when you're in those situations, when you see that stupid plastic tag on there, you are so angry and I don't want to go make friends with the person at Foot Locker or whatever store it is. All of this seems impossible until you look at the face of Jesus. See, restoration and counteracting anger, it isn't something that we strive for. It's an accomplishment that Jesus already did for you and I. See, our relationship, this world, our relationship with each other, our relationship with God, it was like God was highly disturbed at all of our hatred and murderous acts that we've done towards him, that we've done towards each other, that we've done towards this planet. And check this out. This is the good news. Whoa, this is good. Jesus left his altar, heaven. He left that, and he came down and took a way larger journey than 80 miles, and he came down to earth so that he could receive your anger on the cross and set you free. Until you realize that, until your heart and your mind grasp and grapples and wrestles with that, you'll never come to a place where you want to not be angry towards people that you're mad at. It won't make sense. It will feel impossible. You're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to love your enemies. I mean, at least not consistently. You will have no incentive to go make friends with people that you hold a grudge against or who hold a grudge against you until you realize that that is exactly what God did for you in Jesus. You see what I'm saying? The gospel changes everything. The gospel changes everything. Now, there are good things and bad things that happen when you preach. The good thing is, if you do it right, you dive into the passage, you meditate on it, you'll get really convicted. And then you feel hypocritical if you don't do it. And the bad thing about preaching is if you do it right, you'll get convicted and you feel hypocritical if you don't do it. So the last 9 months or so, the Wi-Fi at our house has been really spotty. Every afternoon, like clockwork, signal just goes out. And so we can't do work at home. I mean, obviously that's a significant problem, especially in the last 15 months of our working environment this year with COVID and everything. And it's about at the same time that I figure out, and of course they don't tell you, and I had it on automatic payment too, that not only is my Wi-Fi going out every day, which I did notice that, but my bill went from $110 to $190 a month. Yeah, that's what I said. Talk about anger building. I'm building here. Okay? And, these turkeys, it's the 2-year promotional deal. And our 2 years had been up. And so the promotion goes away and they go back to the crazy billing. It's how they get you. You guys are all going to go home and check your bills now. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I got this. I'm angry. I need to release my anger. I want my Wi-Fi to work. I want to be paying less money. There's one easy solution to all of that. I'm going to call these people up. I'm going to get the customer support person, and I'm just going to be the tough guy to them. I'm going to tell them that I'm going to switch to the competitor. And they're going to say, oh, no, here, we'll offer you a new deal. Right? That's the game plan. And it's cool because I get to release my anger. Oh, I'm so mad. The Wi-Fi's gone out. And, oh, sir, we want your business. Here's a new deal for you. I keep on putting this off because it's going to be a hassle. I don't want to take the time. I'm going to spend 30 minutes on, waiting with the elevator music going on, and I don't want to do it. I get to the point last week, I've had enough. So I pick up the phone and I call. I'm not going to say the name of this company because I don't want to abuse the platform here. Somebody did. So, I'm Mr. Tough Guy, brass, assertive. Hey, I'm going to go to your competitor. I got their number. Here's the deal they're giving me. I'm doing it. And the lady's like, okay. And I'm like waiting. I'm like, no, I'm going. Like I actually got them on the line right now. You want to talk to them. And she's like, okay, well, we're so sorry. We wish you the best of luck. I didn't know how to respond because I'm like, what? This is not the way it's supposed to go. Like, you're supposed to bite my hook. So I hang up the phone and I don't win. Here's my point. We're laughing, but my anger got me nowhere. And check out what happened. It affected my mood. I was even more ticked. I'm even more angry that she didn't bite my hook. And then it affects Rachel because I'm angry. And if Rachel's angry, and the kids are angry. Do you see what anger does to you? It controls you. It affects your mood and others. And in this situation, literally, my anger accomplished zero. It actually only made the situation worse. Now, I wish I could tell you it would have been a really great sermon story if I could say, I called her back up, I confessed my sins, asked for forgiveness, and she was like, oh, here's a great deal for you. That didn't happen. I did call him back, but you know what? I'm going to be really kind and gracious. And I just said, hey, I think we're just going to end our time with you. Thank you so much for everything. And I called up the other company. They came out the next day, and our Wi-Fi is amazing now. But I want to ask you this morning, where are you filled with anger? Where are you filled with anger? I found a new term a couple weeks ago. I was reading a book. Apparently there's a phrase out there called anger fantasy. What are your anger fantasies of? Meaning, when you're daydreaming, who's that person that you think of just telling them off, calling them names, and in your anger fantasy, they apologize to you? Like, oh, Mark, you know what? You're right. How could I ever think this? Those are what my anger fantasies are like. Who's your anger fantasy of? What's that relationship in your life? Is it your spouse, your kids, your neighbor, your coworker? Is it someone here? And secondly, are you letting this anger, this hatred, are you letting it just kind of build in you and you're getting more passionate? Like as time goes on, it's increasing? Or with the way of Jesus here, are you dealing with it urgently? Don't put it off. Jesus says, do it today. Let me reread these words for you. Leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled. He literally says, settle matters quickly. In Greek, that means make a friend with your adversary. Do it while you're still together on the way. Don't put it off, otherwise it will never happen. There's never going to be a convenient time. There's never going to be a convenient time. That's just the way it works. So email them, text them, call them, do whatever you got to do. Do it now. I mean, this might be the only time I say, take your phone out. But do it now. Are you acting with urgency? And I have to say this as a disclaimer, because I actually know this is a reality for a lot of people. Maybe you're here and you experienced physical or sexual abuse from someone, and you're angry at that. You should be angry at that. And so if that's you, what I'm not saying here, if you've been a victim, is, you need to go to that person and kind of work it out. No, that may not be the wisest thing to do in the situation you're in. Those would be extreme situations. I don't think Jesus has that in mind when he's talking about this. To be clear, though, there are ways in that situation to forgive and to release anger. It's just probably going to involve a third party, a therapist, so on. I do want to mention that. See, Jesus' way of life here on the Sermon on the Mount, and this is going to be true the whole summer, this isn't just about behavior modification, obeying more moral rules, more religious obligation. That's actually what Jesus is pointing out to the Pharisees of the day. Jesus is going way deeper. He's going to the heart. He's going to the original intention of this commandment. See, in Jesus' kingdom, and here's what I want you to grab a hold of this morning. In Jesus' kingdom, we have already been restored in the most profound way to the one who matters the most. We literally have become friends with God through Jesus. Jesus settled matters quickly on the cross. He left his altar in heaven to come be your friend, and he did it by dying on the cross for you. It's because of that gospel truth that rather than calling someone raka, rather than calling someone a moron, an idiot, personally attacking them, building up your anger, and just wallowing in your hatred. You ever know those people who just wallow in their anger and their hatred? And they're just cynical, they're just critical. Why live that way? The way of Jesus says humbly, lovingly, courageously approach those who have a grudge with you or that you have a grudge against, because that's exactly what God did for you with Jesus on the cross. I want to invite the band to back up. I want to lead us through a time of reflection this morning. I want us to go to battle on this issue, right? Take it urgently. I just want to invite you just to close your eyes right now. We're not going to do anything weird. Just close your eyes. I just want to guide you through some reflective prompts. The first is this. I want you to reflect on that Jesus left heaven to come to earth for you. There was animosity between you, and Jesus left, and he came down here to make things right with you quickly. Can you just meditate on that truth? Jesus has come to restore things with you. And once that sinks in, ask yourself this. Where is there anger in your life that you need to deal with urgently? Where is there anger in your life right now that you need to deal with urgently? And then lastly, who do you need to make friends with? Who do you need to make friends with? We're going to have a prayer team up here at front. What a morning to receive prayer. And maybe it's not even over this issue of anger, but there's something else going on. God, I pray just with your gentle whisper, touch our hearts this morning. For those of us who need to go receive prayer, may we go up and receive prayer. Minister to us, Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit. We confess we need you, we want you, we are full of anger, we need to find a way to release it. Melt our hearts this morning, Jesus. Come, Holy Spirit.